Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, as if we never left, it's the Black Psychologist Podcast, episode 33. I'll be one of your humble and gracious hosts this evening, Dr. Kyle Osborne. He is I, and I am him. And of course, I'm never by myself. He walks down the aisle in style and profile, the one and only Dr. Jason Pullman. What's going on, good brother?
What's going on, man? Happy early Thanksgiving to you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Happy Thanksgiving, Turkey Day to you also, man. Here we are, man. We towards the end of the month already. How about that?
Yeah, man, it's crazy, right? Moving right along. Holiday season is here. You know, in the mall, you can't eat. They skip right over Thanksgiving. They already on the Christmas, but we're gonna celebrate Thanksgiving in this house. So
Oh, absolutely. We gotta get that turkey ready, baby. It's turkey and football all day today.
Yeah, man, I gotta eat, man. What else besides the turkey? What's the first place, your first stop? Is it mac and cheese or yams? What is it?
Definitely mac and cheese. You ain't even gotta say no more. Mac and cheese after that turkey, bro. That's it.
I could dig it. I'm definitely gonna make a stop at that mac and cheese, man. And then I'm ahead. I know people. This is gonna be controversial, man, but I'm ahead and get me a piece of salmon or something, man. I'm not a big turkey person, man. For real.
Man, look, salmon's the way to go. My first love is the turkey. Like, I live off of leftovers. Like, anybody that knows me will tell you I live off of leftovers. Like, they get tired of looking at it. I'm on it throughout the weekend. From Thursday to Sunday, I'm on the turkey or the leftovers. I'm good for the weekend.
I mean, listen. Thanksgiving, though, I'm definitely gonna get me some rice and gravy, a little turkey, some greens, though. Definitely. But
yeah, I'm making turkey sandwiches, bro. I'm eating all that stuff throughout the whole week. Like, my daughter's looking like that. I can't eat that anymore. Like, by Saturday, she's sick of it. And I'm like, nah, this is all me right here.
Nah, I'm with her on that. I got like 2-3 days in me tops. Like put it like this. Like the sweet potato pies, like when my mother gave me those, I could rock out with those for up to like a week almost, but anything other, if it ain't dessert, 2-3 days, man, I'm ordering pizza, bro.
Oh, I'm on the itis all day, baby.
All right.
Yeah, so absolutely, episode 33. Want to also wish everybody out there also an early Thanksgiving or Turkey Day or Indigenous holiday or what have you. Absolutely want people to definitely be safe as you're traveling to wherever you're going to be going. Friendsgiving, all these other different, events that are going to be taking place. People coming to see each other, because last year was definitely a tough year for a lot of people. They weren't able to, gather with the family and friends due to the COVID. So we want everybody to be safe. And we appreciate also everybody listening and watching, episode 33. Appreciate everybody's support. We definitely see the comments. We see the feedback. So continue to subscribe, continue to share, continue to, tell others, to run and tell a friend, everything. But we definitely appreciate the support.
Definitely. Always, we always want to thank anybody who takes the time out of their week to listen. And just want to tell everybody, make sure that you prioritize your mental health. All right, let's rock.
Absolutely. All right, we got a lot on the docket, so let's get to it. All right, first and foremost, Jay. So a Yale study finds that minority patients with anxiety and depression are more likely to want doctors that share their culture. So through this study, they found that Black, Asian, and Hispanic patients with anxiety or depression are more likely to want clinicians who are culturally competent compared to white patients with similar conditions. So they said that the study found that while minority patients have a desire for culturally competent physicians, they have less access to them. Now, the survey also asked patients to self-report how often they get physicians or clinicians who understand their culture. Black patients are 44% less likely to report frequently seeing culturally competent physicians compared to white patients, according to the study. All right. What were your thoughts as you read through this article?
I mean, this isn't really new to a lot of us. It's been well documented, well studied in terms of especially those two cultures and other cultures, but the stigma of mental health in general, but especially when we talk about depression and anxiety, right? Um, and just some common beliefs, if we talk about, popular culture or African American culture, is like, whether depression makes you weak, whether it means you can't handle, your responsibilities, whatever, type of generalizations people may draw, that kind of perpetuate the negative stigma, so we can understand why the question is there, right? Why people would study, why and why the patients would want, doctors, mental health professionals of color. I think it's two things to say, right? One, they said the access isn't there, right? So a lot of these patients, in spite of it, they're still getting good care, from, practitioners of other colors, right? So they're still getting good. Some of them are still getting good care. But it's important for us to recognize why, this is important, right? Because of the stigma. The second part, I'll just say, and then I want to hear your kind of opinion, is this is important because representation matters, right? So when people stand up and they say that, and we push these STEM programs in high school, right? It's not just because, we want more, or we want more than we deserve, right? Like, it starts that young, right? We're getting our kids involved and interested in math and science and, these different areas and things like that. And just to say, like, this article said, right, like, these patients are less likely to engage in treatment initially and stay in treatment. So it's that important, right? So we know there's the stigma. We know it's going to affect whether somebody even starts, and retention rates. You know what I mean? And yet you still have people, when people are trying to gather support for underrepresented groups in STEM programs or in different areas, people kind of push back at it, like it's another thing, like it's affirmative action, right? But this is the result, right? But in every mental health center you go in, right? Even the ones where there's no Black people working there, and all of the clients are urban youth, right? You're going to find some type of brochure about diversity, correct? And cultural competence, right? Because they have to include it, right? So I'm just going to say, I'm going to leave it there. Like, representation matters, right? And people don't like to hear it, but it's a fact.
Yeah, you said something really important with, people don't come due to that long held beliefs about stigma. Stigma is a big thing. And also, I feel like the cultural competence is undervalued, because I don't think they're aware of, one, you have like language barriers that can also exist in things.
Right.
But that lack of cultural awareness is what poses as another barrier, right? Because I don't think they understand or fully comprehend how important culture plays in a huge part of someone's mental and physical health, right? Like, your culture, it informs your view of mental health treatment, right? Because depending on your culture, there might be these pre-existing kind of views that people have about mental health, right? And then your culture also affects the way you communicate with your healthcare provider, right? Whether it's medical, whether it's mental or mental health, like, there is a certain way that cultures communicate. So, that also goes into whether that person's going to come into that office or whether they're not going to.
Right.
Another thing that, not healthcare, that our culture is, it also determines or it informs the way we interpret communication from our healthcare provider, right? So what, your therapist or what your clinician is going to say to you, our culture kind of informs, is going to really have an impact on how we perceive or how we receive that information. So it's like, when you're working with someone that lacks that cultural competency, like, it's most definitely going to have an impact on the care that the person's getting or that they're receiving, or if they even seek out care at all. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, man. And listen, in this article, the medical student was talking about, she said something to the effect, don't kill me if I don't get it exactly right, but she was like, we don't even spend a month, or we only spend a month or a month or two talking about like patients from different cultural backgrounds, right? Um, and again, this is the medical student
Right.
saying this, right? Um, and again, it matters, right? Because what we see is it's going to matter in terms of how people interact with the patients, right? And we see this in terms of studies playing out in the retention rates, right? And all we can do, if we go back to the statistics, we talked about this like a month or so ago. But again, APA will tell you 4% of psychologists are African American, right? So if we know that the culture of the person is sitting in front of you is going to affect A, whether you go there initially, and B, whether you come back, then there has to be more than just a push that's quote unquote lip service, to get, more practitioners of color, whether that be, doctors, psychologists, medical doctors, whatever the case may be. Because this is the thing, like, we will see the numbers play out in these particular areas because medicine and psychology are like areas where people, study, you know what I mean? But this has to permeate a lot more areas of life than this, you know what I mean? It touches a lot of different areas in terms of representation, and how that how that affects service ultimately. So it's an important thing,
And that's why that representation is important. I mean, I'm sure you've been at places at functions, social gatherings, or what have you, and people have asked you, hey, I've gotten a question like, is it okay for me to look for a therapist or a clinician or a doctor or whoever that looks like me? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. It's totally okay for you to look for
Right.
a therapist that looks like you, that shares the same culture as you, or that has somewhat similar life experiences. It may take time, but the process is worth it. Like, even from our experiences, having a therapist with a similar background can help build that rapport, right? And it makes that individual that much more comfortable. And if they're comfortable, then that's going to create the framework for a trusting therapeutic relationship. Unfortunately, people of color, and we've talked about this on previous episodes, people of color have struggled with racial trauma. They've struggled with and experienced race-based traumatic stress. So, and that takes a toll on physically and emotionally. And so, they might want to talk about their grief and their anger with a therapist or a clinician that looks like them, that they feel is going to have a better idea or more of an understanding and what they've experienced.
I mean, listen, the only thing I would say, I agree with you. The only thing I would add is, representation doesn't just end at like the person that's standing in front of you, right? It also kind of touches on like the tools that we use, right? I was reading an article, or looking at a news story a couple of weeks ago, and there was a young Black medical student, and I guess his focus or his passion is dermatology, and he created his own handbook of common disorders, right? And how they look on brown skin because it wasn't available, right? And if we look at our field, right, there are plenty of tools that we use, that everybody uses every day, and all of the samples aren't as culturally as representative as we would like. You understand what I'm saying? For everything. So we got to look that's from the inside too, so representation matters across the board. And again, it's just one of these things that, when you get more people in position to make kind of those decisions, then not only can you have, more representative kind of faces, that are actually providing the service, but everything starts to change, right? The tools that you use, all of those type of things.
No, totally. I'm happy you mentioned that because as there's work that we do like on the clinician end, because for us to remain, especially in our field, to remain culturally and linguistically competent clinicians, we have to continue to invest in like gaining our own cultural knowledge. Like, it's not going to just be enough just because we're Black that we can just kind of sit there and be like, all right, we're cool, we're going to vibe and we're going to do this. Like, no, we have to continue to ongoing, like the same way how you said that that physician, that dermatologist, he had to invest, he had to do research, he had to do things that was going to be helpful for the population that he's serving. So it's like the same way how we have to be, we have to get that cultural knowledge about the population that we're serving, right? We have to be aware of our own cultural values. We have to be aware of our assumptions, our biases, and how these are factors, like how these factors are going to affect the service that we provide our clients. So like absolutely, it's on both ends, right? It's like we want patients who, if you want a therapist or a clinician that looks like you, absolutely invest that time. It's not going to be easy because there aren't that many of us. Like you said, it's only 4%,
Right.
as it currently stands. And that, it's on our end as clinicians to remain culturally competent, and continue to invest, continue to, do all these other different things that we can do. So when that person does finally find someone like us, we're able to use those tools that you mentioned to help them, on their journey.
Right. And I just, before we move on, it's just, but and that's why I started this conversation by saying what I'm saying. The numbers are the numbers, right? So finding a clinician or a practitioner of a certain color should be of the utmost importance if that's what's important to you. But it should not be a reason that you neglect getting care.
Absolutely. It takes time, man. That's one thing we definitely want to be honest with people, that it takes time to find a clinician that's going to be a good fit, right? That checks off those boxes that, like we talked about, you'll be comfortable sitting in front of that person. So you owe it to yourself the same way you want to make sure you're finding a clinician that's going to be right for you and your needs and things. So absolutely. So it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing thing. It's like you said with the APA, and hopefully there are more and more clinicians of color coming down the pike that are going to be culturally competent, that are going to be able to help people in need. Because as we're getting ready to talk about with these next couple topics that we're discussing, there's a need for it.
Sure.
There's a big need for it. So unfortunately, I don't even really know how to really properly, introduce this. Recently hip hop had a tremendous, terrible loss. Music artist, young Dolph, unfortunately, passed away recently. Was unfortunately was killed in his home city of Memphis. So millions of fans across the world are reeling with the news of his recent death. And unfortunately, while he was outside, or while he was visiting a local bakery in his hometown, he was shot and killed. And this has been difficult. This has been very tough. The city of Memphis, in particular, even though I know he has fans all across the world, but the city of Memphis absolutely has been rocked by this event. And it's a tough loss. He epitomized Memphis, that grit, that grind culture that attracted a lot of thousands of fans all across the city, young and old. And a lot of Memphians, I think I'm saying that right, are experiencing grief. They're experiencing grief and despair when you see one of your own, when something like this happens. And so what's been taking place is that, in the wake of this tragedy, the city has, come together as well as they can, kind of given the circumstances. And there's a local nonprofit that is offering free mental health counseling for a lot of the residents that are dealing with this, because it's a lot of 6 degrees of separation with him. A lot of people were connected to him in that city. He did a lot of great things for that city. So when this came across your desk, Jay, what came to mind for you?
I mean, listen, we talked about this. Of course, this is beyond unfortunate. Like, I don't know how to describe it, right? I like, again, now this article is kind of talking about the mental health impact on young fans, right? I totally understand that. rap music is different, man. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, whether you love it or you hate it, you know what I mean? The most of these rappers that make it out of these cities, we talking about like Memphis, Newark, Baltimore, Compton. When I mean there's an authenticity to their story, is what I mean is like the language, the culture, you know, the people they talking about. It's local in the sense that you're really talking about rags to riches stories for a lot of these people, right? So what I'm saying is what comes with that is literally having a city or a neighborhood on your back, in the sense that people are going to feel that closeness to you. You know what I mean? If they used to see you at the store, or if they watched your grind, even if it's from a distance. So the fans are going to feel that too, right? So you're going to have people from their neighborhood who, you know, have watched your evolution and are proud of you and are looking at it like this is one of us that made it out. And so it's that much harder to stomach. And then the fact that we have the internet now, and the fact that rap is one of the only genres that you gotta be authentic or you can't sell for a lot of people, or you gotta lie about it, right? So because of that, people get a front row seat to your life. So they feel like they know you, right? Because they're gonna see you struggle, they're gonna see you do bad. You know what I mean? They're gonna see you do good. And part of the authenticity of rap music is laying all of that on the line. All you gotta do is listen to Biggie Smalls' Everyday Struggle. It's all there. You know what I'm saying? The good, the bad, the ugly, right? So when you have a genre of music like that, and we're going to talk about the other side of it, you know, it brings the fans in so close that when somebody dies, like they feel like they lost somebody close to them, you know? So I definitely understand the loss. When you look at it from a bigger picture, Black males in the United States, 20 times more likely to be killed by a gun, age 15 to 34. And we're 2% of the United States population. You know what I'm saying? 37% of gun homicides last year was Black males between the age of 15 and 34. So, and a bigger question that everybody has to remember is everybody, whether it be Mo3, King Von, Tupac Shakur, Biggie Smalls, Young Dolph, like they all had kids. They all had sons and daughters that have nobody now. They have family members, but they don't have a father. So there's a residual effects. The same way we was talking about the caregivers, you know, in the COVID issue, right? All of those caregivers gone. And I was telling you, like, I feel bad for them, but I'm worried about the kids. Mm-hmm. You know, and this is the same thing, man. So I didn't mean to drag on about it, but it's just it's very unfortunate. You know, and we can kind of talk about it a little bit more, but yeah, that's a lot. I know that's a big answer, but yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. That's the, you know, the ripple effect. Like you said, it's not just the rap artist. Like, yeah, a lot of us know him through his music, but you know, there's a whole personal and community aspect of it. Like you said, it's not, you know, this is the life of a father, a husband, a man that also championed, you know, his community. Like he was well known for doing so many different charitable events. I mean, he was in the city because he was doing like the food giveaway.
Right.
That was his sole reason why he was in the city. Right. And then you also got to think about, because the manner in which this happened, you know, this happened at a bakery. So now, you know, you got the owners or the workers that were in the bakery when it happened. Right. So they've experienced trauma. Right. So you got traumatized employees, and now the community. This is community trauma because it's affected, you know, like you said, this is someone that they see that grew up in the area. You see someone that looks like you, who came from the same situation that you're currently in, that this person basically pulled themselves up, you know, by their own bootstraps, by their own grit or whatever, to get out of there and, you know, to become successful, just doing something positive. And for this to happen in this manner, again, this is that community trauma. And, the city they're feeling a collective grief, after seeing, the news. And then you see, like you said, we got social media. So the footage gets out of, like, the assailants coming in, and it's like, you don't have to be the direct victim, or even be there at the bakery to be traumatized, like, firsthand. Like, there's a secondary aspect of it. And that's what a lot of that whole community is experiencing as a result of that direct trauma. And I'm happy that the community is offering that through the nonprofit, is offering the mental health care for individuals, because, like you said, this affected people young and old. So you got students, and you got people that are going to be going to school. You got folks that are older that kind of grew up listening or kind of came up with Young Dolph, the same thing. So this is so many different areas, so many different ways it's branched out.
But listen, man, it's just not, the problem is, and I don't have no kids, but it's not fair to our kids, right? Because, see, this is the thing. After a while, and I know, like, they become desensitized to death, right? Because I still remember where I was at in my room in 1996 when Angie Martinez came on the radio talking about Tupac was dead, right? Because that, I'm gonna just be honest, that's how authentic his music was to me. I felt like I knew him, right? And what I'm saying is, I just talked to my nephew 2 years ago about Pop Smoke was his favorite rapper. You know what I'm saying? I remember being 19, 20 in my 20s, and it was, I'm gonna date myself, but we driving around listening to CDs or whatever. You got the carousel, and I was like, man, everybody in my carousel is dead. Everybody I'm listening to is dead, right? And it's crazy because 20 years later, I'm 40 years old, and I was in the gym the other day, and the same thing was happening, right? But these aren't even guys that are my age. They're babies, right? They 25, 20. So my thing is, like, and these kids are having to deal with that. So what they're internalizing is, like, these are the rappers, right? These are the millionaires that are supposed to have made it out, right? They got to deal with this at a very young age, and it's just, again, it's another weight that culturally, our kids got to deal with that everybody else doesn't have to deal with, right? What other groups got to do? They sit around and their major artists they're listening to, oh yeah, he's dead. It's not necessarily normal. It's normal to us. You know what I mean? But it's not normal. It's so normal to us that in the 90s, by the 90s, I'm not saying it was a living color, but they were doing skits about another rapper getting shot. It was so normal to us.
No, you're right. It's the shared trauma. It's it's normalized the gun violence in our community.
Right.
That's what's taking place, and it's a burden that we shouldn't have to bear, especially the kids, where they're of a certain age, and they've already kind of normalized it. That it's happening. And it's happening in so many different areas. It's feel like it's been a tough month for the hip hop community in terms of this just took place, and in a different tragedy we have the events at AstroWorld. Right. So for those that aren't aware of what took place at AstroWorld is a music festival headlined by Travis Scott. And a couple weeks ago, tragedy struck that festival where there was a stampede. Folks broke through the gate, and they pushed their way through, and it was just I think the count is that 9 people have passed away, unfortunately. I think the youngest being 9 or 10 years old, unfortunately. Another 300 and something people were injured and hospitalized. And it's happening at so many different areas, and similar to what was taking place in Memphis as far as like the aid. Travis Scott had announced that those that had attended the concert including the 9 people that have passed away, like their families, and some of the other concert goers would be eligible for free month of BetterHelp. And BetterHelp is an app, it's a therapy app that offers counseling through text, through phone, and through video conversations. And you know, there was a lot of criticism that came along with that.
Oh yeah.
It's I'm not too familiar with therapy app. I mean, with BetterHelp. I know the way Travis was he had partnered with them and was kind of sponsoring it through like one-on-one therapy through like a limited time. I think for like 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. I think he's offering the services for people that need it. I think he's also going to be working with the National Alliance of Mental Illness and Mental Health America to further provide help to anyone that was harmed during the headlining performance at AstroWorld. But I mean, this is tragic, man. I mean, like this is some of the footage, that I saw.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, that's like it's a worst nightmare. I mean, you and I we've attended concerts, we've attended, various festivals. And that is the worst case scenario. Like that is the worst outside of a shooting taking place at a concert. Like this is right up there. This is the next worst thing where all mayhem and chaos just breaks loose. And you have a limited space of people, but you have so many people, and this is what took place. So with the help that Travis is offering, what's your take?
I'm going to be completely honest, right? I'm not completely decided how I feel about this, right? Because the article is about, kind of basically therapists being resistant to kind of dismiss the offer, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we can understand why therapists would not be resistant to dismiss the offer, right? Because they're going to be like, some therapy is better than no therapy. You know what I mean? Now, with that out the way, but the reason why I say I don't really know how I feel about it is because obviously I'm assuming you're asking me about like the genuineness of this, of this offer. I think it's tone deaf, right? And that's what I got written at the top of my paper, like tone deaf, because it's too early. It's way too early, right? I think, put it like this. I think that he would have been much better. He would have served himself much better, right? If he would have took a whole bunch of money, right? Went and found a therapy service or found something like that, prepaid for it, right? Didn't say anything and let them advertise it, right?
Yeah.
And then a year down the line, during the trial, whatever, you find out Travis Scott went and offered this service, or his people set this up, right? Anybody who wants therapy, we'll take care of it for as long as you need, right? Mm-hmm. He's that rich.
No, yeah.
Right? But again, I think the reason why I say tone deaf is because some people, I don't know him, but some people who are in that position are used to kind of being in control, right? So they're used to throwing money at a problem and fixing it a lot of the time, right? And this is what it kind of sounds like, is throwing money at a problem, right? And it sounds like a bunch of people got in the room and it was like, this is how we can kind of help you and help your brand at the same time, right? And then that doesn't work because people go do research for 15 minutes and they find out that the same free month that you're offering people, who are handling dead bodies and seeing people trampled to death in front of them, they have offered to just businesses that just use the service. It's like a coupon.
Yeah.
So if Macy's employees use the service, you get 1 month for free. You know what I mean? So obviously when stuff like that starts trickling out, now you look like a snake oil salesman. You know what I mean? So there's some problems with the rollout at the very least.
Yeah, it comes off icky, man. It comes off, it did that's what I'm saying. I totally agree in the sense of like the rollout or the way it was presented. Like there may be some good intentions. I can't, speak to that because I don't know Travis. I don't know. I feel like, of course, they had to go into damage control, right? They had to go into that real quick. I just feel like, it just kind of came off icky because, like you said, it's like a partnership. It's like a celebrity kind of jumping into a partnership days or like right after a tragedy is taking place, and it feels like, you know, like you said, if he would have been like, hey, this is what's available, like it's just been, it's just like the rollout.
It just like honestly, it just seems
like disingenuous,
Listen, you got a lot of people that are going to be dealing with a lot of trauma for a long time, right? These aren't, and I'm speculating, totally speculating at this point, but you're going to be people that might be dealing with anxiety, you know what I mean? PTSD symptoms, that, things like that. You're not going to have people these are going to be challenges that may take a significant length of time to deal with, is what I'm trying to say, right? So again, I understand what you're saying, right? But when you're trying to, I guess, show that you care about a situation, I think the right response would have been to send condolences out to the family, right? Apologize, and I know this doesn't sound good in terms of his lawyers, right? But apologize for it happening in the first place, and then do what you got to do behind the scenes to set up the services and then step away and let your people talk about it, but
it just like the limitations he put on it, like you said, it comes off like a coupon because
it was a coupon. It doesn't come off like a coupon
because it's a limited time only,
right?
So it's like, hey, come now or act now and you can get 4 weeks free on us.
Right.
And it's like, all right, I don't know how much he actually spoke with like the better app people or like spoke to the clinicians as far as like, because and I know trauma manifests differently for different people depending on what
did you just say to me you don't know how long Travis Scott spoke to the better app people or the clinicians? You want me to tell you? He didn't speak to them.
Didn't speak to them. And so that's the thing, like, it's very evident. Right? It's very evident for the reason that you're putting restrictions on things. Like, it's trauma. These people experience trauma to various degrees.
Right.
All right. So if you're going to offer help, you offer help. You don't put restrictions and say, hey, it's only for 4 weeks, limited time only. And it's like, here's help. Okay. Right. Then this is where it's located. It's taken care of. It's, but again, that comes from having a conversation, right? Or even not your people, and saying, hey, if we're going to offer this, we have to come correct, right? We just have to offer help, not in the sense of, all right, you can get this, but hey, you better act now, because if you don't, and it's only 4 sessions, so the rest is on you guys.
But
so it's just,
listen, man, and in all seriousness, like, and I wasn't trying to make light of this at all. If my tone sounded a certain way, it's because it's absurd to me, right? But children was killed. I have certain questions of why kids were even at a concert where I'm supposing it was probably alcohol and a whole bunch of other activities going on. And I have issues with that, but it's not the time to talk about that. But this was like a big tragedy, man. Like children died as a result of this, right? And again, not one time did I blame him for it. Like I said, I'm undecided in terms of all of those facts will come out, right? And we're not detectives, so I'm not trying to do that. But we're talking about the reaction, right? And in my opinion, like, when you have a situation like this that obviously got out of control and children are dead, right? I heard a story where one of the men woke up, had his kid on his shoulders, woke up, and his son was in the ICU, right? And I don't even know if he's still with us, but my point is the appropriate reaction is to show empathy, offer your condolences, try to offer some mental health support, and step back and step away, right? Because there's going to be a time of grief for people, and what they don't want, after what people don't want after they experience trauma or extreme loss is to be part of like your commercial,
Or to feel rushed, right? To feel
Right.
forced to, hey, I got to act now to get help. If I don't, then I'm SOL. So
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
yeah, it definitely could have been handled a lot differently with more care. I mean, I'll leave it at that. I'm not gonna, chop it up any more than that. So, we'll see. Especially like you said, as more information comes out, something to continue to monitor. But I am happy as far as for the young Dolph situation, that you have a community that is, looking to support, its residents given the tragedy that they just experienced. So we'll see, man.
We'll talk later, man, because I think like we've gotten to the point where we should probably do, explore that topic a little bit in a little bit more depth, right? In terms of the authenticity part, when it comes to rap music, right? Because we spend a lot of time talking about well, I don't want to fully get into it, but I think we should talk later because I think that's something we should explore, man, because you know, there's a lot of death, a lot of trauma being experienced, and you know, it's having an impact, right, on how these kids view death in general, how they view their lives, and a whole bunch of other things. So we'll talk about it later. I don't want to get off on a tangent.
Most definitely. All right. So TikTok. All right. TikTok is my therapist. All right. So on TikTok, we see some of these short viral clips that are spreading about various, as it pertains to mental health, various disorders like ADHD, awareness, and all these other different things. And it's building community. It's destigmatizing mental health. However, they're also perpetuating stereotypes, kind of ignoring comorbidities, and encouraging self diagnosis. So, Jay, these are some of the statements or some of the quotes, right, that you'll see, through different threads, on TikTok. Watching this made me think that I might have ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I think I might need to get checked. Do I call up my doctors or what? Right. And that's just a little sample of some of the quotes or some of the threads that that people comment on. So is so this platform that was originally built for dance videos, but has become a source of information. Is it risk? Is it helpful? Where do we stand, especially as we go forward? Because TikTok is only getting larger, right? It's only growing. So, what's your
Well,
take?
first, I think that it's ironic that you went 2 minutes talking about TikTok and you didn't promote yourself because you're a TikTok star, right? So,
Star is a strong word,
nah, man.
I'm out there a little bit,
Nah, man. I
Check
saw
me
you
out,
in the
man.
last video with that tie wrapped around your head,
Oh, you
man.
saw that? Yeah. Yeah.
Nah, but seriously though, like reading this article, okay, like there is some positive aspects to it in terms of awareness, community support, as they were talking about,
Mhm.
reducing stigma, right? So that's a good thing always. But there is some obviously some risk. The number one risk being that you don't know who's giving you the information, right? Um, that could be a big risk, right? They talked a lot in this article about like over diagnosis, right? And misdiagnosis and diagnosing yourself, right? And I have a feeling that there's a lot of that may be going on as a result of these channels. Um, but it's good and bad. Like you have to, I don't want to say look at it in moderation, right? Because even if you're looking at somebody's giving you bad information, in moderation is bad regardless. But I guess what I mean is there is a limit, right? Like if you're looking at something just for purely informational purposes, and then if your symptoms or something reaches a certain level to get a professional opinion, then I don't think it's really any different than, listening to anybody give their opinion on something on YouTube, right? But when you start using it as kind of a substitute as for intervention, that's where the problem comes in, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it ranges from misinformation, right? You'll have people that'll say they'll make loose claims that celebrities have this disorder, right? Or what the criteria, or what the symptoms are for a disorder, with no with no type of literature or anything that's guiding that. So, absolutely, like it's when you confuse content creators for experts, yeah, you're definitely treading in that dangerous water.
I mean, to me, it's kind of, but listen, we've been heading here for a long time, right? Because I'm sure you have encountered plenty of people in your everyday life that will confuse like life coaches for therapists, right? Um, and again, everybody can serve a purpose, right? But you got to know what you're getting from certain people, or what you should be getting from certain people, or the limits, right? Because again, some people may look at it, like that's kind of an overstep in terms of, oh, well, they're just on TikTok. What harm can they do? Right. But look at it. You get somebody on TikTok, they're ADHD influencer, they have 3 million followers. What if they decide to start selling water, okay, that helps you with your symptoms? This is what they're endorsing, right? If this is a person with a license, you're not going to see that, right? Because they can be held accountable, right? But if this is an influencer, it's just like if you go outside your house and you want to take medical advice from somebody that just has a table set up across the street from your house that says advice. If you take medical advice from them, good luck. You can't sue them. They don't have a license. Sorry. And this is the same thing, unfortunately. So that's why you got to watch who you listen to, right? Because, if you take bad advice, sometimes you can't undo certain things, or it might just cost you some money, if they sell you something that don't work.
And even just from speaking as, a content creator or whatever you want to be called, I don't know what the technical term is, but even like when I'm doing my videos on there and
oh, you're a content creator, man. You're a content creator.
All right. I'll add that to the business card. Even when I do mine, of course, like if after I post a video, somebody will, users or followers will ask questions. And by no means am I doing therapy through TikTok.
Right.
No, it's about awareness. And anytime someone will ask, and it happens fairly frequently, oh, well, I got this, Dr. Kyle, is this, right? Is this that? Is this anxiety? Is this depression? This, I'm like, it could be a lot of different things. From what you're telling me, it appears it could be this or that. And my follow-up is always, you need to see, a medical professional.
Right.
I'm not diagnosing anybody. Okay. That's not the way this works. That would be irresponsible. That would be reckless. It'd be a lot of different things. And that's not, the way I do things. The platform is made for to promote awareness about mental health, but by no means, unfortunately, you don't have people that go by those same, bylaws, or have that same kind of integrity where, like you said, they'll diagnose, they'll have all these different, oh, this is this is that. No, we're not doing that type of information. That's irresponsible and that's harmful, to people. So that's definitely one of the things. Now it talks about, one of the benefits is that it makes, strategies accessible, and it also shatters the mental health stigma about it. Now, what I'll say is that that's definitely a positive, because I feel like, we're in this era where, mental health has never been so openly discussed, right? I mean, awareness is like at an all-time high. And, this has been the goal, right? For myself, for you, for other clinicians that we've been using like our platforms on our, whether it be IG, whether it be Facebook, like our goal has been educate people about, or the general public about the prevalence and the importance of focusing on your mental health. So that's definitely a plus where I think we're at an area, or we're in an era where people are more open to talking about it, as opposed to 10, 15, 20 years ago where people weren't talking about mental health. Mental health was still taboo in a lot of different areas. Um, I think the things that, we have to be careful, especially on TikTok, is that TikTok is a rabbit hole, right? It's like you got one video that's coming in like right after the next, right? And then as it relates to mental health, I mean, TikTok also has like a certain type of like humor, right? It's like if you have a disability or you have a mental illness, you can. That's a place where like you can come to vent, you can come to joke, you can relate with others about the troubles that it means to like exist, to have that particular disorder or disease. But we just really have to be aware, as opposed to where it goes from destigmatizing whatever the disorder or whatever the issue may be, where it's not a situation where we're turning it to like also appropriation. You know what I mean? Because that exists. There is a mental illness and disability appropriation that people will take advantage of.
I mean, I agree, man. Listen, social media in general, right, has a lot of benefits, but there are limitations, right? So um, I think it's no different than what people went through with like WebMD, like 10, 15 years ago, right? Like, don't diagnose yourself from WebMD, and some people, we got to a point where people were like, well, don't even use it because all it's going to do is scare you until you go see your doctor, right? So again, I think TikTok could be good for general information, but you want to always double check, and you can't use it as a substitute for an intervention, of course. That's all I would say.
Yeah, yeah, folks, man, they will go out and they'll self-diagnose. Like I've seen it, like in the thread, they'll go and say, "I have this," or "I have this disorder," and it's like, no, no, that's not the situation. You definitely need to support, follow. Now, it could be a good tool, absolutely. Like I'm not gonna, again, because I also use it. It's definitely a great tool. Um, for peer support, if you want to call that, maybe, online support of people sharing their experiences about mental health, which is hugely important. Especially if it's someone like high profile, like we've talked about celebrities when they go on and they share what they've experienced and things. Again, we just have to make it clear, and we have to keep in mind that that's that particular person's individual personal experience, and it doesn't constitute as medical advice or expertise.
Absolutely.
So, but we'll see, man. Like it's growing. It's a, and I don't know. You just got to definitely be very, very careful as far as when you're operating and you're seeing some of those posts. So, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely, man. Just got to be, you got to be careful with technology. I mean, we all know, like, it could be a gift and a curse, man.
So
2.4 billion views for the ADHD videos. That's a lot.
I'm telling you, man. Like I've seen numbers. You think I'm a celebrity? No, the numbers that I'm seeing at some of these other content creators, these other hashtag groups. I'm small time. I'm local.
Hey, man.
I'm the local bodega on the corner. That's me.
Hey, man. Local bodega make a lot of money.
Yeah, you're right. We opening up another.
They open on Sundays, Christmas, and Thanksgiving, brother.
Absolutely. But definitely, speaking of which, Jay, before we get out of here, great holiday coming up, man. Focus on your self-care, enjoy that food, enjoy spending time with the family. Anything else before we get out of here, good brother?
Of course, we just want to thank everybody that takes the time to listen. Want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving if you're choosing to celebrate, and just remind everybody to, prioritize your mental health.
Absolutely, guys. So continue to share, watch, listen, subscribe, comment. Please join the conversation at the Black Psychologist Podcast at gmail.com. We would love to hear what you have to say, any comments or questions that you have for us. Until next time, like you said, enjoy your holiday, and wish everybody a good mental health.
All right, brother.